Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to start my little handheld recorder here, just for my own use. This is a channeled event on navigating the galactic shift, I think is what the program says. And today's the 20th of September as we approach the equinox and the new moon. I looked to see if there was a tiny sliver of new moon this morning, and I couldn't see it, so it's already very close to the sun. And less than 24 hours from now, it looks like it's going to partially eclipse the sun in some parts of the world. I think it's a partial eclipse. There was a lunar eclipse 2 weeks ago, and often they follow each other. So it's a momentous occasion. The equinox falling on the new moon. That's a significant energy, and it's the energy of conjunction, which magnifies things. Yay! Magnifying everything, positive, negative. And so it's a good time to be magnified. Okay, I'm going to be channeling my spirit guides today, and I have various guides that I work with. The ones that I normally work with in this type of setting are the founders. Now, some people call them creator gods. They are beings from a very high level of vibration who were involved in the creation of this, what they call local universe, implying that there are other universes besides this one. And they come from what I call level 12, although they have to step themselves down several levels to communicate with us. They do not have a form. They appear to me like bright blue-white stars. And they were involved in the engineering of the human DNA many millions of years ago. Just in case there's anyone here who still believes we evolved from the ape or the chimpanzee, sorry. It's a lot better than that. A 5-year-old can figure out that story is bunk. So little 5-year-old Johnny or Susie or whatever their name is says to the teacher, if we evolved from the apes and chimpanzees, why are there still apes and chimpanzees on the earth? My other teacher in biology told me that when a species mutates, eventually they all mutate. The 100th monkey theory, or there's other theories that how that happens, but if we all mutated from apes and chimpanzees, why are they still here? So anyway, I have a book called The Real History of the Earth that goes into detail on what really happened. We're about 100 million years old, Homo sapiens, about 100 million years old. And we came from the Pleiades star system originally. That's our root race, Pleiadian. And there's been all these interventions. Yeah, you could say we're a little bit like lab rats. Sorry again. But we've been tampered with and manipulated by various races from various star systems over millions of years. And this is the 4th major civilization on Earth. So all of this information is in my earlier books. I'm not going to go into great depth on it because you can get it there. What I am going to talk about today, or what my guides are going to talk about, is a little bit about the galactic shift and why that's so important. And so they're going to talk for about 45 minutes, and then they'll open it up to questions. We'll move this mic around the audience, and I'll be using that one at that time, so in about 45 minutes. I encourage you to ask questions. They're going to do the monologue for maybe 40, 45 minutes, and then they're going to open it up. Anything that's close to being relevant to the topic is welcome to be asked. So it doesn't have to fit exactly what they're talking about. It can be a little bit more broad subject. When you ask questions, make sure they're relevant to everyone. So don't ask a personal question like, how's my grandmother's surgery going to do next week? That doesn't concern everybody. Here, if you are one of the few that was lucky enough to get a personal session, you can ask those kind of questions in the personal session. I'm pretty sure we're full on the personal sessions. So, however, you can probably book one online at some point in the future. The wait time has dropped a little bit on how long you have to wait for a personal session. So, enough with the commercials. Let's get right into it. Okay. So, it's conscious channeling. I don't go into a deep trance. I will be closing my eyes most of the time, but I'm capable of doing this with my eyes open. And I'll probably be rocking my body around like this quite a bit. And that's because the energy comes in through the crown chakra. And when I'm moving my body and I'm fluid and flexible, it's easier for the energy to come through my body. That's the reason for the rocking motion. My voice will change a little bit, but I don't go into some weird state of voice during the channeling. So it's a collaboration between my spirit guides and me. So you're getting actually more of my own higher self and a little bit less of the guides. And that's great because I can go in and out of them real quickly and easily. If there's a problem with the technical or whatever, I don't have to go all the way out and all the way back in. I can just kind of be sort of half here and they're sort of half here. And if there's some detail like a microphone goes off or whatever. If you need to get up during the channeling, do so quietly to go use the facilities. It's okay. When we do the meditation, we're going to take a 15-minute break after the channeling, and then we'll have a meditation. And I ask you to please not get up during the meditation. So if you have a small bladder, take care of it before the meditation, if possible. The meditation will only be about 30 minutes. And then after that, we'll have questions and sharing. So that's the format. The founders have been presenting workshops around the world for many years. Many of you are familiar with the founders. If you're not, I think you'll enjoy them. As I said before, they were involved in the engineering of the human DNA. So they have a great deal of knowledge about who we are as physical beings. And of course, they have a lot of knowledge about spiritual matters. So, without any further introduction, here are the founders. Greetings, dear creators. We are the founders. It is our pleasure and privilege to be here today. This is a beautiful space. And we're just looking at the energy of this group, and wow, this is a good energy. We do workshops all over the planet, and we would have to say this is one of the most pure and strong energies we've encountered. So give yourselves a silent little hand for the work you've done on yourselves. You may know this channel from his work in timeline healing, which is a powerful therapy he and the Arcturians brought through about 20 years ago. And it's now all over the planet. And it is a deep work. You go deep into the layers of your subconscious mind and you clear your past traumas. We're not going to do any timeline healing during this segment. We may do some work on your deep subconscious issues, but not in the form of structured therapy. We're going to concern ourselves more with what's actually happening right now on the planet and in the cosmos, and how you can respond to the outer changes as you go through your inner changes. Because this is both an inner and an outer experience. It's not one or the other as you're conditioned to believe. You tend to believe that either the world out there is causing my mischief, or I'm causing my mischief, or whatever it is. And it's a blend. Ultimately, it comes from within. Everything comes from within. Your consciousness creates your experience of reality. We'll say that again because this is the most accurate statement of metaphysics you can possibly make, is your state of consciousness determines your experience of reality. So that's the foundation of metaphysics. We're going to be going in and out of physics, metaphysics, psychology, spirituality, maybe a little biology. So we're going to be jumping around a little bit, but we'll go slowly. There's a translator, and we don't want to speak too quickly. We know some of you English, most of you English is your second language. So we're going to try not to use a lot of big words or talk too fast. So if we do talk too fast, we won't be offended if you say, please slow down. The translator's having trouble keeping up. So let's start with some deep breaths. Now, as the channel said, this is a collaboration. So we're able to go in and out of him. He's able to go in and out of us very easily. So sometimes it's going to feel like he's talking. Sometimes it's going to feel like we're talking. And that's as it should be, because this is a collaborative venture, this earthly mission. So today's topic, as you're breathing, as you're relaxing, as you're centering yourself, today's topic is the galactic shift. So we're going to define the galactic shift, and we're going to talk about why it's important. What is this galactic shift, and what does it mean to me? This is what each of you can ask yourself. So the galactic shift is a cosmic event that occurs approximately every 108 to 112 million years. And it's a shaft of electromagnetic, what are called scalar waves, that emanate from the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And they go out in a 180-degree angle. So think of it as you've got the center of the galaxy here, and you have this beam of light going off this way, and this beam of light going off this way, and you have the spiral galaxy here. And the Earth and the solar system are revolving around the great central sun of the Milky Way galaxy like this. And every approximately 108 to 110 112 million years, depending on which system you're using to measure, the Earth and the solar system pass through this beam of scalar energy. Now, the beam is about 150 years wide. So it takes the Earth and the solar system about 150 years to go through this beam of light. Now, this beam of light has been called many names by different channels. The photon belt is one of the names you've probably heard. The electromagnetic null zone is another name you've probably heard. And there's probably some others. And it's also over on this side, again, 108 to 112 million year duration between these galactic shifts. So in other words, the solar system's been revolving around the center of the galaxy for close to 108 to 110 million years, and now it's entering again, and then it goes another 108 million years and enters again. So what is this shift? First of all, scalar electromagnetic energy is not well understood by your scientists. It's called radiant energy in some teachings. Your Nikola Tesla was discovering some of the scalar wave properties and how to utilize them using wireless transmission of energy. You all know the story of Nikola Tesla, how the so-called, what do you call them, the big corporations of the day bought out his inventions and suppressed them because they didn't know how they could make money on them. You obviously have a very antiquated and primitive economic system on Earth which does not facilitate forward progress as a species. We think everybody here is very much aware of that. So, at any rate, there were a few other of your scientists who have discovered certain things about scalar electromagnetic radiation. We're not going to go into who invented what or who did what research. You can find that information yourself. You now have artificial intelligence to assist you in many of these inquiries. And it's a wonderful tool if you use it properly. Of course, it can destroy humanity if it's used improperly. But certainly you can find a lot of information about scalar electromagnetic waves. So what does this mean for humanity? First of all, the wave is about 150 years wide. It started around the year 1950 and will conclude around the year 2100. Now, if you do the math, where's the midpoint? 2025 is the midpoint. Oh, incidentally, that happens to be where you are. So you are at the midpoint of the galactic shift. You're also at the midpoint of something known as apocalypse. Ooh, that's a scary word for some of you. The religious people make it scary. Of course, they make everything scary, right? So apocalypse means the revealing of all that has been hidden or the lifting of the veil. And it is indeed one of the qualities of this electromagnetic shift is that it tends to purify and cleanse things that are not aligned to its frequency. And so this has a lot to do with why the apocalypse is happening at this time and why you're entering the midpoint of the apocalypse, which is, well, between 2025 and 2030. There's a lag time with some of these effects. So the next 5 years are probably going to be the most intense time on your planet from an energy standpoint. And as you know, there's something called resistance. And there are a lot of souls on Earth that are resisting this shift, this galactic shift, which is also equated with planetary ascension, is a corollary to galactic shift, planetary ascension. What that means is that as the Earth passes through this scalar electromagnetic energy, it accelerates the evolution of souls on Earth. It accelerates everything on Earth. Even the plants and animals go through a shift as well, not just the humans, and the nature spirits and so on. Every life form on Earth goes through this shift. The other planets in your solar system also go through this shift, and there have been many scientists who are perplexed when they study the solar system that they see changes in the electromagnetic frequencies of the other planets as well as Earth. Now, you also have what you call geophysical and electromagnetic poles on your Earth. Your Earth is a torus, if you're familiar with T-O-R-U-S, not the astrology sign Taurus, but this is Taurus. It's like a donut-shaped energy field around the Earth. You've seen photographs, perhaps, or diagrams, rather, of the toroidal shape of the Earth, and the points where the electromagnetic field turns inward is at the poles, and then there's a core, and then it turns at the other pole. So you have these two hemispheres of the torus. and you have the poles here, North and South Pole. So these are the geophysical poles and the electromagnetic poles. They're two different things. One is the physical location of the Earth, you could say, where it you could say this point somewhere in the what you call the Arctic Circle is the geophysical North Pole, and then you have one down in Antarctica, which is the South Pole geophysically. But then you have the electromagnetic North and South Poles, which vary. They don't stay fixed. They move around. Currently, the North electromagnetic pole is moving from far northern Canada into northern Siberia. So it's been doing this now for some time, and this does affect navigation. As you might imagine, your compasses are going to point slightly different as the magnetic North Pole changes. So this is some of the, we're not going to go deep into this geophysics. We don't think it's relevant to what we're here to present. So you can track the movements of the electromagnetic poles, but it does affect your electromagnetic body, what is called your etheric body, which is another name for the electromagnetic body. And that includes your aura, your chakras, your meridians, your EFT tapping points, all of the different mini vortices in your physical body. So there's a lot going on with this galactic shift, and what it's doing is it's stimulating the meridians and the power points of your body and making you more susceptible to these frequencies or more attuned to these frequencies. And as a result, it is having a catalytic effect on your soul growth. It is speeding up your soul growth, to put it in lay terms. You're becoming more, you're awakening faster. How's that sound? That has a nice ring to it, right? You're awakening faster. Yeah, okay. So this is the physics, if you want to say, just the tip of the physics. We're not going to go deep into radiant energy and scalar electromagnetic waves, how to calculate them and all that kind of stuff. No, we're not going there. You've got other scientists that are better at doing that perhaps than we are. We are big picture beings, you could say, and we just look at the big picture of what's happening for humanity. So the apocalypse, which is the subset of the galactic shift, it's a smaller phenomenon located within the larger phenomenon of the galactic shift, is also reaching the midpoint. And you can see this. This is not something esoteric and, abstract. You can see by looking at your world that everybody's stuff is coming to the surface. That's, again, a lovely lay way of expressing it. That everyone's stuff is coming up to be healed. Deep layers of the subconscious mind. It's getting harder and harder for people to stay in denial about what's going on inside their consciousness, especially if they have unresolved issues that they've been pretending they don't have, putting on a happy, smiley face and just saying everything's fine, and inside they're going like this. So, and you see this in the world of politics and economics and all of the wars and everything that are going on, that it's all coming to the surface. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe 50 years ago, only a small percentage of humanity was aware of the idea that there are so-called power elite pulling strings behind the scenes, got the little politicians on their strings, making them dance this way and then dance that way and everything. And now, a majority of souls, at least in the countries that this channel has visited, are aware that there's a force behind their government, that it's not just the politicians with their silly ego games, that are to blame for the conditions on the earth. It is the people behind the scenes pulling the puppet strings. And so this is now pretty much common knowledge. There's still a lot of people that would like to deny that that's the case, and, oh, you're just a bunch of conspiracy theorists and kooks or wackos or woo-woos or whatever name you want to give to people that are aware of these things. But the vast majority of souls on earth now at least are aware that there's something going on behind the scenes. They may not know exactly what it is, but they know that there are beings who are resisting the galactic shift, that are trying to keep their illusion of control over this planet. Most of them are extraterrestrial based, and they are pulling the strings of the human beings, who are in turn pulling the strings of, well, you know, it's a pyramid structure. You can go up to near the top of the pyramid where you have various extraterrestrial factions, and then you come down and you have like these central banks and all that sort of thing. So most of you are in this audience are aware of that. And so all of this is being exposed because of the galactic shift, because of the apocalypse, because this is necessary in order for humanity to ascend to the next level of evolution. Some of you may be under the impression Homo sapiens is the finished product of an evolutionary cycle. Wrong. As he likes to go like this. No, you have more levels of evolution to your physiological being. This universe is multidimensional. You have a physiological being, you have a soul, and then you have a spirit. Spirit is perfect for all eternity. It cannot be improved upon because it's already perfect. Soul is evolving from lower dimensions into higher dimensions, and as it does, it takes on physical forms which evolve in their own sense. The cellular structure mutates periodically and creates a new life form as it mutates. And that's what's happening to the human being. You have what's called the etheric crystal light body, which the channel talks about in some of his books. And this crystal light body will have a different relationship with the earth than the humanoid, the human Homo sapiens body. So everything's evolving in this set of dimensions. So your physical bodies are evolving into the crystal light body, which means eventually you will have bodies that no longer grow old and die and fall apart and malfunction more and more as they get older and so on. That is a belief system. That is not the reality. The higher reality is that there's unlimited energy in the universe, and the energy in can equal the energy out of the physical body, which means you can reach a stasis, or you're no longer aging, growing old, deteriorating. Another way of saying that using science is entropy and centropy are balanced, or negentropy or negative entropy, if you want to use that term instead of centropy. That's the charging force, the ordering force of the universe, balancing entropy, which is the disordering force of the universe. Most scientists are only aware of entropy. They're not even aware of centropy. And there's lots of examples of centropy, how souls learn as they grow older. They organize data, which seems chaotic, and they bring it into an order, a way they can understand the data. That's centropy. A classic example of entropy would be you drop a glass and it breaks, and it takes a lot more energy to put it back together than it took to break it. So those are examples of entropy and centropy. And so the entropy and the centropy balance out, and you have stasis in the physical body, and then you no longer have a degradation where the body is like a machine wearing out. It's being continually recharged with prana, life force energy, which balances the disintegration of the body. So energy in equals energy out. Very simple formula. The channel goes into depth in this in his book, The Secrets of Unlimited Energy. He wants you to know that he doesn't have any books here, so you'll have to order them online. So he apologizes for that. So, back to our discussion. So you have ascension of the physical form, you have ascension of the soul, meaning that your level of consciousness continuously goes up, not in a straight line. Typically, it's in more of a wavy line, like a stairway, a curved stairway like this. So you have periods of rapid soul growth and then periods where you sort of plateau, where there's not a lot of forward movement, then another surge forward, then another plateau. This is the common way souls evolve from one level to the next. And then you have your spirit, which is already perfect. And all of these exist simultaneously. The channel often says you have 3 parallel earths. One is more physical or third dimensional, one is more mental or fourth dimensional, and one is more spiritual or fifth dimensional. Of course, it's more complicated than that. He has up to 12 dimensions in some of his materials. And we would be considered 12-dimensional beings, although we are operating at level 7 for the purpose of communicating through our channels. We have over 100 channels around the world, but not every channel calls us by the same names. We're known as creator gods by some channels, and maybe beings from the great central sun by other channels. But he calls us the founders because we were involved in the engineering of the human DNA about 100 million years ago. It did take quite a long time to perfect the human DNA, by the way. It's not, well, look at it. You have about 50 trillion cells in these bodies. And that's amazing when you think about it, because 50 trillion cells are all working together to give you an experience of this dimension. Yeah, a few of them are malfunctioning, a few are being born, and a few are dying every second. You have some cells dying and new cells being born. So it's a dynamic process. But within that dynamic process, you have what you call consistency. Every day you look similar in the mirror when you wake up in the morning, unless you've had too much to drink. So we like to try and throw in a little humor to kind of a serious subject, right? So if we get too serious, ask us to tell a joke. We're not very good at joke telling, but we can do it. He's a little better than we are, so we just kind of rely on him when it's time for a joke. So you look like the same young person day after day, as opposed to same old person day after day in the mirror. And with a few minor changes here and there, especially if you're a young person and you're going through adolescence and so on, then of course the changes are a little bit more noticeable. But basically, this form is relatively stable for at least 70, 80, or 90 years if you are at a vibration where your body is aging. So that's on the physical level. And what can you expect on the physical level as you go through this galactic shift? Well, first of all, your consciousness and your body are going to merge a bit. It's going to become easier for you to control your body with your consciousness. There are times when it seems the other way around, like your body is dictating how you feel. Oh, my body doesn't feel good this morning. I'm in a lousy mood. But more and more it's going to be the other way around, which is how it actually is from a higher perspective. Your consciousness determines your experience of reality, and that includes the physical body. Your consciousness determines the health of your physical body, not how much you eat or what kind of air you're breathing. Those are factors, of course, but they're not the ultimate cause of your health or dis-ease. That is due to your consciousness. So if you have a belief that life is a struggle, which is a very popular belief on Earth, your body's going to be a constant source of struggle to you. Feeding it, clothing it, doing whatever you need to do for it's going to end up being a struggle if you have that belief in your subconscious mind. So as you move through this shift, you'll discover more and more that your consciousness determines your experience of reality, not your physical body, not the government, or not the economy. It's your consciousness that is determining your experience of reality. And this will become more and more obvious to you as you go through the shift. You could say you're going from physical to metaphysical. That's a good way to say it. And you're going to eventually get to the point where you redevelop your advanced abilities such as psychokinetics, telekinetics, teleportation, bilocation, these advanced abilities that only the avatars have been able to master. Souls like Babaji and Krishna and those souls. So you will eventually reach that level of vibration where you can shape-shift yourself into different forms and instantly grow a pair of wings and fly, as many of the children would like to do right now. Perhaps you've done that on another planet at another time in your evolution. So let's wander a little bit off the main topic and talk about soul evolution for a moment, because most of you in this audience are between 80 and 100 million years old as an individual soul. And you've traveled to numerous planets during your soul history. Some of you have had over 2,000 lifetimes in different worlds, and maybe 50 to 100 lifetimes on Earth, although many of you have had fewer lifetimes than that on Earth, especially the young people that are coming in now. Many of them are star seeds, which means that they have had very few lifetimes on Earth, but a tremendous number of lifetimes in other worlds, mostly more evolved than Earth. About 80% of the universe is more evolved than Earth. Only 20% are at or below Earth's evolution. So if you look out at the night sky, he's got actual numbers for this. 1 out of every 1,253 stars has at least one planet with intelligent life on it. Your scientists are estimating 1 in 100,000. Well, it's much more frequent than that. 1 in 1,253. That's the planets with intelligent life. Now, that doesn't mean that there's that many species, because some of them have colonized different worlds. So, for example, there's about 100 stars in the Pleiades system, of which your sun is one of the members of the Pleiades system, even though the 7 sisters of the Pleiades are many light years away from the Earth. Nevertheless, you're considered part of the Pleiadian system, and there are beings who have colonized various systems. So there are over 10 million different species of intelligent life in your galaxy alone. So if you do the math, you'll realize that there are far more intelligent planets with intelligent life, than there are actual different species. And of course, we're including hybrids, where different species have managed to successfully interbreed with one another. Yes, human beings have been interbred with many, many times in the past. You are a blend of Pleiadian, Sirian, and Orion. Those are the top 3. There are others that are also in your DNA, but as far as your earthly lifetimes go, you're a blend between those 3, Pleiades, Orion, and Sirius. Of course, there have been souls from other star systems who have come and interbred with human beings and introduced their DNA into the gene pool. So that would include Dracos, that would include Zeta Reticulans, Andromedans, and on a higher level, Arcturians and Polarians. Those are higher level civilizations that have interacted with human beings. They don't breed the way lower density beings breed, but they do influence lower density beings. So you're a melting pot here on Earth of different galactic civilizations. And there was one advertisement for this event that said something about the Galactic Federation, and we want to make it clear that that was a misprint. This is not about the Galactic Federation. However, since it was there, we'll talk about it for 5 minutes maybe. Galactic Federation, which this channel likes to call Galactic Confederation, which would just mean, con means with, and so that would be different federations with each other, would be the meaning of confederation. And this is a group of over 1,000 star systems in this local sector of the Milky Way galaxy that are involved in helping Earth and other planets through their ascension process. Because as you might have guessed, there are other planets that are in this beam of light. This isn't the only one. Well, first of all, your whole solar system is going through it. But there are other spiral arms of the Milky Way that have planets that are going through this shaft of light. And so the Galactic Federation is one of the organizations that is helping souls on the planets that are affected by the galactic shift. So they are a large organization headquartered by one of your favorite spirit guides, Lord Sananda, the Oversoul of Jesus. He's more or less in charge, and we put that in quotes because in that dimension where they come from, the idea of being in charge is meaningless. Everybody recognizes they have a unique contribution to make to the whole, and so they naturally give certain responsibilities to certain beings who are best qualified to fulfill those roles. So it's not like your pyramidal structure on Earth, which was brought here by the Syrians, incidentally, where you have a president and a board of directors, or chairman and a board of directors, and executive vice presidents, and so on, upper managers, middle managers. All of that was brought here by the Syrians somewhere around 300,000 years ago. So getting back to the Galactic Federation or Galactic Confederation, out of these 1,000 or so star systems, you have beings vibrating in different levels and densities that are part of this organization. We could say 99% of them work directly for the light, or they're aligned with God's love within, would be another way to say that. There are some that are, the newcomers to the organization that may be like at level 6, which is the highest level that can go out of balance. So you do hear stories about Galactic Federation members who are not in balance. And you have wannabes, as you would call them, souls that would like to be a part of the Galactic Federation, but which are not officially members, but they may claim to be members. And you may have heard, some of you have heard of, well, let's just go through a few of these examples. There's some channels that have been telling human beings that the spaceships are coming to evacuate them off the planet. And they've been saying this for over 30 years. It's going to be next week. Next week the ships are going to arrive, and you're going to get beamed up off this hellhole of a planet, blah, blah, blah. Well, there's so many things wrong with that philosophy. Where would we start? Let's start with the fact that you volunteered to come here for this time period that you're living in, to be part of this shift, to help your fellow brothers and sisters go through this shift. So why would you want to leave when things get a little bit intense? Now, we're not saying that nobody's going to get evacuated from a danger zone. There could be limited instances where someone is really needed. Their expertise is needed somewhere on the planet, and their physical body's in danger where they are, and so they might be taken from one part of the planet and brought to another part somewhere else. That is possible, and probably even likely. But in general, you're not here to escape from the problems of humanity. You're here to help human beings heal. And I think everyone here knows that. We don't need to belabor that point. But we just mentioned that use extreme discernment, whether it's us speaking, whether it's some Galactic Federation spokesperson speaking, Ashtar Command, for example, or a Great White Brotherhood or some other organization is speaking. Use discernment. Really check out what the message is. Is it making sense? Are they violating free will with their message? The fourth density Syrians, who are the ones behind the spaceships coming and taking you off the Earth, they are violating the free will of human beings who signed up to be here on the Earth during the Earth changes, not leave when things get a little intense. So there's another group that is taking a wonderful idea called Nasara or Jasara. Let's see if we can get the acronym correctly. National, Global and National Economic Security and Reform Act, Global Economic Security and Reform Act. These are two principles which were brought forth by members of the governments of Earth and were voted down. However, the ideas are great, and many souls have run with these ideas and are looking forward to implementing these ideas. And one of them is a universal basic income, which is a corollary to Nasara Jasara. Nasara, we believe, is from the United States, and Jasara is from Europe. But so the idea is that everyone lives on a high standard, and that's a wonderful idea. It's a fifth density idea, your planet being fourth density currently. But as you know, most souls are not ready for that. If you look at the countries that have tried universal basic income, what you end up having is devaluation of currency, because now if everyone has, let's say, €1 million, then everything goes up in price because of the laws of supply and demand. You can study economic principles and realize that that's going to happen. Also, you have some souls on Earth who are industrious. They're workaholics. They want to work. And you have other souls who want to be lazy and have everyone else do everything for them. And if you have a universal basic income system on the Earth where you have these dynamics of workaholism and laziness, it's not going to work very well. Eventually, all the workaholics are going to get all the money again, and all the lazy people are going to lose all the money again, and you're going to be back where you started. So it doesn't stimulate creativity. It doesn't stimulate innovation to have a system like that at the level where humanity is right now. Now, there will come a time when you will naturally evolve into a Nasara Jasara kind of system. But we want to, again, urge you to use discernment when you hear people talking about how, well, it's going to be next week. You're going to all have $1 trillion by next week. Just have faith. It'll be coming next week. Oh, no, that wasn't that week. It's the next week. So, use discernment. The so-called powers that be that think they're in control of this planet are not going to give up so easily and let everybody be billionaires when they're enjoying their billionaire status with their yachts and their private planes and all that. So they're not going to just roll over and say, okay, we're going to give all our wealth away and we're going to give everybody $1 trillion. And it doesn't work that way. If you understand human psychology, you know that most human beings are not at the level where they can handle even universal basic income, which is a wonderful idea from the standpoint of every soul deserves to live a high standard of life on Earth. Every single soul, regardless. Doesn't matter who they are or what they've done in the past. Every soul deserves a high level of living on the Earth. So we just wanted to diverge a little bit from the topic and just suggest you use discernment when you meet someone who's a channel for the Galactic Federation and they're talking about Nasara Jasara and the spaceships coming and lifting everybody off the planet and so on and so forth. Another, what you call psychological operation, is the Flat Earth Society. Everyone who's got two brain cells to rub together knows that the Earth is spheroidal or obloidal in shape. That means a sphere that's been partially compressed at the poles so that the circumference of the Earth at the equator is bigger than the circumference of the Earth at the poles. So it doesn't take very much science or understanding to discover that the Earth is obloidal, or like a partially crushed sphere. Well, obloid means if this object here were shaped more like a human eye, like this, that would be obloidal. And airplane pilots know this, and the companies that employ them know this. That's why when you fly from Europe to the Americas, you go kind of over Greenland, almost over the North Pole, in order to make the shortest possible distance between, let's say, London and Los Angeles. You'll actually go up over towards Iceland and then across Greenland and then down over northern Canada, and then you'll come down to southwestern United States, because it's shorter than going straight across the Atlantic closer to the equator. And of course, if it's shorter, they save money. There's that money motivation again, right? So these are a few of the common sense things you need to embody, as you look with critical awareness, critical thinking it's called. It's an endangered species, someone said recently. Critical thinking, it's like it's on the endangered species list for humanity, yeah. So the Flat Earth Society, is a psychological operation in order to make people look like wackos, like crazy conspiracy theorists who are accurately seeing things that the so-called controllers don't want you to see. It's that simple. They don't want you to see that there are extraterrestrials controlling humans who are controlling the politicians and the religions and the economists and the professors and the medical industry and all of the agricultural industry, and all of these different industries are being controlled by beings further up on the pyramid. They don't want you to know that, of course, because they maintain their illusion of control by staying in the dark, by being behind the scenes where people can't see them. That's how they control, in their illusion, the masses of humanity. And it's been quite effective, because most of humanity believes they are in control, subconsciously, and some of them consciously. Oh yeah, we know we're politicians, and we take orders from someone we're not allowed to question that says, you're going to do this, you're going to vote this way, you're going to do this and do that. So we didn't want to make this a long, detailed discussion about the Illuminati or about extraterrestrial influence. This is more of a general discussion about the galactic shift. But we also know that we can talk for a long time and run out of time if we talk too long. So we are going to now, I believe we're going to switch microphones. And this one's going to go around the audience. And you can ask questions, and we will be happy to respond. Is this one all set up and ready to go? I think we can probably move the microphone. Let's see if we're ready to do this. Ah, it's on. It's on? No, it's not. Now it's on. Yes. Okay, I'm going to move it over here a little bit. Okay, so this microphone is going to go around the audience. And go ahead, since we have limited space to move around here, let's have you come up, and then when the next person goes, you can just bring the microphone to them. So,
thank you very much for the truth that you've been talking.
You're welcome.
So I have a question. It seems to me, and I may be wrong, that the greatest skill that humans can learn during this time is actually how to be present in the moment, how to experience the reality, and how to use their mind in the means use less of it most of the time, and then use it in the greatest capacity when it's needed.
Yes, thank you for that. We were spending a lot of time on the physical and soul levels and not very much on the spirit. He did a meditation last night which was more focused on spirit. And we want to thank you for suggesting we now move more into the spiritual dimension, which means there is absolute perfection in this moment. In this moment is all there is. In this moment there is perfection. And how to navigate the galactic shift. For most souls, they need the information we were giving earlier because that's where they are in their vibration. But for many of you, you are realizing now that just being fully present in the moment and feeling God's love, which is everywhere present, is the answer. And so we thank you for moving us along because we were spending a lot of time on the other levels, which are necessary to understand. But it's also important to understand what you're saying, which is, what does it mean to be fully present? And it's more than just listening with your ears to what someone's saying. And it's even more than just tuning into the energy that they're emanating, although that's a bigger part of it. It's really remembering that there's one being expressing through billions of life forms. One being expressing through billions of life forms. And this is the state of consciousness which all souls will eventually reach, that state of consciousness, that realization that everything is one. Right now it's still intellectual ideas for most souls. It's oh, that's a nice idea, we're all one. It's not a day-to-day reality for very many souls at this time. And that is part of the goal. The goal of all of this work is to be able to live from that feeling of oneness, that knowing of oneness, the energy of oneness. So thank you for that comment.
Thank you.
Go ahead and raise your hand. Okay.
Hi. I would like to hear your perspective from on a topic of the first contact that is now starting to be more and more present in some teachings. In which way you see it might happen and how it will impact our evolution. Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, please excuse us if we reword your question a little bit, because the question really is about when will the most popular governments on the planet and the most powerful institutions on the planet from again, we're saying the illusion of power, but the most influential governments and institutions on a planet, when will they acknowledge that Earth has been visited by extraterrestrial beings? There are several countries that have already acknowledged this. There are many people in military and other organizations that have acknowledged this. But it is not on what you call the mainstream media nightly news. Well, in other news today, the Pleiadians landed in front of the parliament and outlined a plan for humanity. That hasn't happened yet. Not sure it ever would happen in that way, because the more evolved beings realized that, landing on the steps of Parliament would just bring out the military, and they'd probably start shooting and ask questions later. So really the question is a little more multidimensional and complex than simply first contact, because it involves such things as what has been called free energy, or 0 point energy, which is how to harness the electromagnetic fluctuations in the vacuum of space at temperatures near 0 degrees Kelvin. And these technologies do exist. There are inventors who have successfully tapped into the 0 point field. The reason these energies have not proliferated on the Earth is due to basic metaphysics. Once again, 90% of humanity believes in lack and scarcity. And it takes more than a metaphysician standing up in front of a group of people and saying, you're unlimited spiritual beings, because they have layer after layer of subconscious programming that they believe in lack and scarcity, that they have to struggle. Their ancestors struggled to put food on the table, etc. So even if, let's say, Pleiadians were to land in front of Parliament, there would be souls that simply wouldn't see it, because they don't have a context for it. If you will recall, there were sailors who entered harbors in South America with their huge sailing vessels, and the locals had seen nothing bigger than a canoe in their entire life. And they couldn't even see these big ships parked in the harbor because they had no reference point in their consciousness for something so huge. And another example would be yogis levitating. If the souls in front of them don't believe in levitation, they probably won't see the levitation even if it happens, because their mind has conditioned them to only see what they're ready to see based on their consciousness. So it's a bit of a complex question in that sense. We predicted 0 point energy would start to become mass-produced by the year 2025. Well, 2025 is here, and the consciousness has not risen sufficiently for 0 point energy to proliferate on the Earth, because more and more people must believe, first of all, that we live in a sea of unlimited energy. All of us in all of the different worlds and dimensions live in this sea of unlimited energy. And when people get that, then 0 point energy will proliferate. But in the meantime, there's little bits of information being leaked out, such as, somebody testifying in front of a governmental body that they were taken aboard a spacecraft and shown advanced propulsion systems, things like that. So we hope this answer is somewhat satisfactory. We don't believe any answer is going to feel totally satisfactory.
Thank you.
It's a question of when the masses of humanity have raised their consciousness high enough to be able to accept that there are extraterrestrials that have been manipulating humanity for millions of years. What is that going to do to the religions of the world? Especially when they realize that many of the angel visitations were extraterrestrials. Yes, there are real angels, but many of them were not real angels, they were extraterrestrials. What's that going to do to the religions? Next question, or sharing.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. I have just a question. Who are those species that are blocking that cosmic, as we call it, transformation or whatever? And why you do not directly erase them from the world, from our world.
Okay. Let's ask the second part of the question, answer the second part of the question first. We make decisions at our level of vibration that are rather complex regarding free will. And let's use a real-life example, which is related directly to your question. Let's say that a group of extraterrestrials wants to enslave humanity. And there's a group of human beings, a large group of human beings, who don't want to be enslaved by extraterrestrials. So whose free will gets violated? If we interfere, and sometimes we do, to be honest, sometimes we do interfere in these matters. Whose free will is going to be violated? The extraterrestrials who want to conquer humanity, or the human beings who do not want to be conquered by the extraterrestrials? It may seem to you to be, well, of course, let's violate the extraterrestrials because they're malevolent and they don't want to cooperate with humanity, blah, blah, blah. But it's not so simple, because there may be souls on Earth who want to have an experience of being enslaved. That, as strange as that may sound to some of you, there may be souls who want to have that soul lesson. So how do you determine whose free will is going to be violated and in what ways? So these are questions that at first glance they don't seem all that difficult, but if you go into them a little more, you realize they're difficult questions. And one thing we can do is educate people as to who are the players in this cosmic drama, and we've done that in some of the books, but let's go over it briefly. There are three main negative extraterrestrial groups associated with the Earth. The ones that would be considered the, quote, most dangerous are the green scaly reptilians from the Rigel star system in Orion. The other groups include a group from the Alpha Draconis system, or the Draco system, and these are humanoids that have kind of a serpent-like features. And then you have Syrians from Sirius A and B that are the darker part of Syrians, because there are light Syrians as well. And these are the beings that are behind the hierarchies, the secret societies and the hierarchies of corporations. They were known as the Archons or the Nephilim. There's various other names for them. From Sirius C were the Anunnaki, and from Sirius A and B were the Archons. And these are some of the beings from Sirius that have had a negative polarity, what one group of Syrians calls service to self as opposed to service to others. So one of the positive Syrian groups called the Raw Collective by one channel is part of the positive group from Sirius that has exposed the workings of the negative Syrians who want to control humanity through systems of the haves and the have-nots, the power elite and the common people, or the little people, as they like to call the common people. So you also have the Orion group is involved also in secret societies and what you call satanic rituals, blood sacrifices, pedophilia, things of that nature. So that's largely the Draco and the Orion groups. So the Syrian group tends to focus more on business and creating an economic system that benefits the few at the expense of the many. And the Dracos and Orions tend to be more into what do you call black magic and mind control, manipulation, things of that sort. So those are the primary negative groups associated with the planet. There are a few other groups from time to time. There are some negative Andromedans, a few negative Pleiadians, but most of the Pleiadians are positive. And there's a few other groups. There's a group from Tauseta or something like that. It's a star in the southern hemisphere. And there's a group from that star system as well. And there are other groups, Tausetians, he says they're called. So there's a few others, but those are the primary negative players in the drama. The primary positive players in the drama are the enlightened Syrians, including the Ra Collective, the enlightened Pleiadians, and their students, which are at level 4, the Nordic Pleiadians, tall blue eyes, blonde hair, tall Nordic Pleiadians, and the Mediterranean-style Pleiadians, which have more olive skin and aren't quite as tall. And then you have the Arcturians, who are tall, blue-skinned beings, very tall, like over 2 meters tall. And then you have a few other groups that are positive. Many of the Andromedans are positive. Some of the Zeta Reticulans are positive, but very few of the Orions are positive. Maybe 20% of the Orions are positive. When we say positive, we mean supportive of human soul growth, supporting one's growth, happiness, growth, and well-being, as the channel likes to call it. And negative means hampering or interfering with one's soul growth. So that's our definition of positive and negative.
Thank you.
Are you disappointed in us? So you made us 100 million years ago, 100 million years ago, and we are still about strife and things like money. So are you disappointed in us?
Well, that's a good question, actually. We would not use the word disappointed to accurately describe how we feel. We see it as a tremendous challenge to push humanity forward without violating free will. We answer to the Godhead, as does all creation. And the Godhead created free will. We didn't create free will. Would we create free will if it were up to us? That's a good question. So we observe the pitfalls of free will, if you want to call them pitfalls, the limitations, the problems, the problematic situations that arise from free will. And we look at it from a point of fascination. We're fascinated by the intricate details of how free will causes various things to happen on Earth. And it was a big project creating human DNA. It was not, some afternoon we'll go to the laboratory and we'll create a human being, call them Homo sapiens. It didn't happen like that. This was and there was a lot of trial and error. There were our extinct versions of humanity that are, some of them don't have Latin names or whatever. And so it was kind of like a sophisticated software program. You have a lot of bugs when the first version comes out, and you have to decide how are you going to fix the bugs. And of course, we've seen 4 civilizations rise and fall on planet Earth, and each time a civilization has been destroyed on Earth, it has been less traumatic than the previous time. We write about this in one of the books. I believe it's the one called Earth Awakens. And so the first time it was total destruction. That was Maldek. The whole planet blew up from neutron bombs that were detonated underground. And that was around 4.3 million years ago. The second one was Mars. The nuclear war on Mars was about 1.4 million years ago, and it destroyed most of the atmosphere of Mars. A few people survived that and went underground, formed underground compounds or cities. So not everybody was destroyed in that one. It was a lesser destruction than Maldek. And then Lemuria was huge tsunami waves inundated Lemuria, but there were some of them that managed to escape on sailing ships and, believe it or not, on the backs of dolphins and whales. And they were able to go to a place that didn't get submerged. And then Atlantis, also, there were beings who escaped in airships and spaceships. So not everybody got destroyed in Atlantis. And in this civilization, our prediction is still as it has been for 20 years, which is that up to 2 billion human beings are going to survive this civilization, which is about 1/4 of humanity. So it's much less severe than the previous destructions. So we see that as a positive trend, even though from a human point of view it still looks rather tragic. But we do think that the 5th civilization is going to be, what do you say, the 3rd time's a charm? We're going to say the 5th time's a charm. We think it's going to be a beautiful golden age on planet Earth as promised by many of your seers. And we see this starting to materialize by the year 2040 or 2045, somewhere around there. We missed on the time a little bit. We originally thought around 2030, but we had to revise our numbers because we underestimated how powerful the negative energies are on planet Earth. You know, you're all powerful, creative, spiritual beings, including the ones of you that are creating negatively. So you are still powerful beings, even though you're creating negatively. And that doesn't mean that the so-called power elite is real power. It's still an illusion of power, because an illusion is that which appears to be true as long as people believe in it. If people stopped believing in the power elite, the so-called dark cabal, it would disappear very quickly. It would collapse very quickly if people stopped believing in it. You know, what was the phrase that happened during that medical event that occurred a few years ago? Do not comply. And many people did not comply, and they were unable to achieve all of their objectives because people did not comply. That's the beginning. We're not saying it's as simple as saying I will not comply, but that's the starting point. To refuse to comply with the dictates of the so-called power elite, whether it's putting a needle into the arm or whether it's taking some substance into the body or whatever. So we kind of went in different directions with that question.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm curious, which level of politicians is aware of these things you're talking about?
That's an interesting question. There are some people in public service. Well, it's supposed to be public service. It's more like the service of the money or something like that for most of them. But there are some that are definitely working for the good. One of them is a guy named RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's a health secretary in the United States. That's one that he's familiar with. There are others. There are a few people in the European Union that are good souls. They want what's best for humanity, but they're up against this so-called dark cabal network. And most of the ones that are in the daily news are the members of the puppets of the dark cabal. You've got, what's her name, von der Leyen or something like that. We're not even sure how to pronounce her name. Mr. Macron, Mr. Starmer. These are what you would call dark cabal puppets. And some of their underlings, the ones who work for them, some of them are good people, but they hit what they call the glass ceiling, I guess, or is that what it's called? The glass ceiling. They get up to a certain level of management and they can't go any higher. And so they aren't allowed to make decisions that benefit the people. Maybe you know some. There was a populist candidate in Romania that was disqualified that wanted to do good. There's probably someone who would like to replace Zelensky who really cares about the Ukrainian people. That would be a wonderful idea to have somebody who actually cares about the Ukrainian people in office. So it's possible that when Zelensky gets removed, which he will eventually get removed, that someone will come in who truly cares about Ukraine. And there's probably some souls in Russia that will eventually replace Mr. Putin. Mr. Putin's not entirely dark. He does have some light qualities within his being. But he's constantly pushed and pulled by so-called light and so-called dark. Again, these are ultimately illusions. There is no such thing ultimately as light forces and dark forces. It's a dualistic concept based on, are you supporting souls in their evolution or are you interfering with souls in their evolution? And if you're interfering, you're a member of the so-called dark forces, and if you're supporting, you're a member of the so-called light forces. So souls like Mr. Putin are sort of, you could say, double agents. They go back and forth between the light and the dark forces in their decision-making process. We admit we're not big on politics, so we've only mentioned a few souls. There are certainly many more. Oh, there's one named Trump. He's been in the news a lot lately. And he's also, like Mr. Putin, he's got a light and a dark side, you could say. And he kind of is like the ping pong ball going back and forth between, being influenced by the so-called dark forces and being influenced by the so-called forces of light. And you can see that almost on a daily basis by the decisions he makes. So he and Putin are kind of in the same general category when it comes to whether they're helping or hindering humanity. Ultimately, they're all helping humanity because they're providing a mirror for humanity to look at themselves. Those souls who hate Mr. Trump are not liking the mirror he's holding up, which is one of great ego. He's one of the most egotistical souls that's ever been on planet Earth. And he's mirroring that to people who don't like their own egos. And that's a lot of souls don't like their own egos. And so they don't like what they see in him because they don't like what they see in themselves. So he's playing his part very well. He's helping people wake up in a rather painful way in many cases. But again, he's not all bad. And those souls who think he's all bad are not thinking clearly. They're polarized. They're stuck in duality if they think he's all bad. Same with Mr. Putin. Same with Mr. Zelensky. Same with the other ones we mentioned. Even though they're controlled largely by the negatives, they're not. No soul is 100% bad. Every soul has the spark of divinity, has God's love within them. It may be obscured, it may be deeply buried in layers of negativity, but every soul is a child of God, including Mr. Macron and Mr. Starmer and Mr. Netanyahu, who's unfortunately about 90% dark, 10% light at the present time. So.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to know what exactly this bad beings that don't want us to evolve more, what else do they take from us exactly? Okay, so you say that at the top of the pyramid at Earth, there are people who are collecting money and we are slaves for them and so on. But these beings that are not living on the earth, they are in some kind of contact with this on the top of the pyramid. And what else do they take from us and from them?
Well, ultimately, these are beings who have forgotten that they're created in the image and likeness of God, and they believe they have to take energy from others in order to feel good about themselves, and they derive a great deal of seeming pleasure from taking energy from others. You could call it lust, although that's usually a sexual term, whereas this is more of a solar plexus power center term. And they literally believe they are lacking and they must take energy from others in order to feel good about who they are, in order to feel alive, in order to feel vital. And then there's a group which has been termed evil, which means those who oppose God, who believe God is evil. The ones that are being called evil are the ones who believe God is evil, that they have to fight against God. And they are coming from buried rage that has been built up over many lifetimes. It's deep in their subconscious layers. This rage toward God. God, why did you send me to this planet? Why did you take away my powers that I had when I was in the soul realms or whatever? It's a consequence of what this channel calls original cause, which is the first time souls incarnated in the lower worlds, they made a fundamental error in thinking where they believed they were cast out of the kingdom of heaven, that God was punishing them. They were bad, they're sinners, they're guilty, they deserve to be punished. All of this arose out of this identification with the lower dimensions and the belief that God somehow sentenced them to this prison planet called Earth, or one of the other so-called prison planets like in Rigel or other places. So this is kind of the origin of why they believe they have to take from others, because they don't believe they can go directly to God, because in some cases they hate God. Why would I go to God when I hate God? You know, that's their kind of reasoning. And there's another group which feeds off negative emotions. And so if you have a lot of unresolved negative emotions, these beings will feed off of you. They will take of your guilt, shame, anger, and fear. Those are the top 4 emotions that they are attracted to. And again, this follows the law of metaphysics, the law of attraction, which says if you're putting out a lot of negativity, you'll get a lot of negativity back. You'll attract negative people into your life. So if you do happen to have a lot of negative people in your life, then the thing to do is to go within and say, what part of me is attracting these negative people into my life? Now, if it's karmic, such as family members, you may have volunteered to come into that family in order to help them bring them into the light. But in other cases, it may just be that you have something within you that's mirroring to them, and so therefore they're attracted to you. So we're getting into the psychology, and we're running out of time. We're going to need to take a break here, and he may need to shift his chair because he's got hot sun on his face. So let's go ahead and take a 15-minute break, and we're going to ease out of the channel here, give him back 100%. It's been our absolute pleasure to spend this time with you. There will be a meditation after the break. We are the founders. Good day. So we'll get started so that there are people who had questions we didn't get to, and we're going to continue with questions after the meditation. And it'll be my higher self, but the founders will be right here if I need them. Okay, this is a meditation, and it's not 100% related to the topics that we were discussing with the founders, but it is a really nice meditation to help raise your vibration. I think there's a few of you that would love to have your vibration raised. Isn't that like one of the reasons we're here? To share our high vibrations, but also to help raise them. Just in case we feel like we're not quite manifesting the level of awareness that we'd like to be manifesting. Thank you. That's one of the characteristics of soul evolution, is that there's still a sense that there's more. Like, oh. And of course, that's so easy to prove. It's the proof of that is so basic. It's like the proof that there's a spiritual universe. It's one of the simplest, easiest proofs there is. Look at the light spectrum and the sound spectrum. One of the presenters, I think it was Dr. Samir, mentioned this. The light spectrum, the part of light that is visible is less than 1% of the light that's out there. We just can't see it because it's too far ultraviolet or too far infrared. And the same with sound. We see or hear somewhere between 20 and 20,000 hertz. And what about the frequencies below 20 hertz and above 20,000? Some animals can hear above 20,000. So we are seeing and hearing such a tiny part of reality. But it gets worse, because we don't see anything as it actually is. We see the light from objects reflecting in the retina of our eyes, being decoded by the optic nerve, being interpreted by the brain, and by the time all that happens, everything is at least a few nanoseconds old, if not hundreds of years old when you look out into the night sky. So we're not seeing anything as it actually is. We're a tiny fraction of reality, and we're not seeing it as it really is. And what about this? Is this a solid chair? No, this is vibrating energy, mostly empty space, if you go into it. So we're not even seeing everyday objects as they actually are. So we have extremely limited physical senses, and the spiritual universe is defined as that which is invisible, that which is beyond the physical senses. That's the definition of spiritual. So the spiritual universe is vastly larger than the physical universe. Easy proof. So I'm stalling for time in case anybody came in late from the break. So let's meditate. And we always start our meditations with deep breathing. Breathing is the most important part of meditation. So let's take full, deep inhales, relaxed exhales. If you were at the meditation on Friday, you know that if you speed up your breath, it tends to keep you awake. If you slow down your breath, it helps you relax. So if you're a nervous person and you have a hard time relaxing, then slow down your breathing, but make it full, deep breaths. Slow, deep breaths, fully inhaling, fully exhaling. And if you're the type that falls asleep easily, speed up your breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. That's a good rhythm. If you start to get too tingly or hyperventilate, then slow it down a little bit. And you are in control of your experience. Nobody's going to hypnotize you against your will or force you to do anything you don't want to do. You're in control. You can accept or reject anything I say. And you'll be entering a theta brainwave state, a highly powerful and creative state. And you'll be able to remain awake and aware while in this theta state, sensitive to your thoughts and feelings, and able to respond to anything that requires your attention. You'll be able to fully recall everything you experienced during the meditation, and you will only use the information that is for your benefit and the benefit of others. So continue to breathe and relax, breathe and relax. Now let's state an intention for this meditation. Our intention is that we will practice going into higher states of consciousness through the use of guided visualization. We're going to go on a journey to a higher dimensional place. And as I said earlier, you'll be able to remain awake and aware at all times during this journey. We're going to start now with an induction, and this is going to be similar to hypnotherapy and a little bit like the Silva method, a little bit like past life regression, except we're not going to go to a past life. So go ahead and begin going down a stairway. Imagine a stairway in front of you that goes down. Some people like to go up a stairway during meditation. That's fine if you're visiting the superconscious mind, but we're going to be spending time in the subconscious because that's where healing is needed. In this case, we're going to give our subconscious mind a beautiful experience. We're not going to do any deep psychotherapy or anything like that. So we're going to go down a stairway, and with each descending step, feel yourself going deeper and deeper into meditation. Breathing and relaxing, going deeper and deeper. If your mind starts to wander, gently bring it back to the present moment. Staying awake and aware as you go down the stairs. Letting go of stress and tension in your body. Being completely safe at all times during the meditation. And now we're reaching the bottom of the stairway, and in front of you there's a tunnel. At the end of the tunnel is a light. There is also a doorway that leads into the light, so if you don't like tunnels, you can go through the doorway instead. And now you're going through the tunnel or doorway until you reach the light. And now you're emerging into the light. And you find yourself in a beautiful place in nature. Everything is alive. You can smell a fragrance in the air. You can feel the earth under your feet. You can hear the sounds of nature all around you. And you see bright, vivid colors everywhere you look. This is a beautiful, peaceful place you can go anytime you want to get away from the cares and concerns of the world. It's a place where you feel completely safe, completely at peace, and completely free. So take a moment to walk around in your favorite place. And now notice a tall, radiant being of light walking toward you. This is your all-wise, all-loving, all-knowing higher self. Do not worry about how well you can visualize your higher self. Just know that this beautiful being is walking toward you and is now standing right in front of you. Imagine you're able to gaze into the depths of wisdom in this beautiful being's eyes. Your higher self knows everything about you, knows exactly what you need for the next step on your soul path, and has the answers to any questions that may arise. And you can ask your higher self questions at any time and receive clear and accurate answers. So, if you wish, you can give your higher self a big hug, feeling all the love, power, and wisdom pouring into your meditating body. Now, directly behind your higher self is a spaceship. And there are steps leading up to an open door. Your higher self motions for you to come aboard the spaceship, and so you're walking up the steps, entering the open door, and now you're in a large circular room with a comfortable chair in the middle. Go ahead and walk over and sit down in the comfortable chair. Your higher self is going to become the captain or pilot of the spaceship and goes to the control panel preparing the ship for departure. The door closes. You feel a gentle lifting motion. You look out the window and see your beautiful place in nature dropping away below you as you rise up into the atmosphere of Earth. Now we're going to go on a journey, and we're going to leave our beloved planet Earth and go out into space. So you're now entering the area above the atmosphere, and you can see the Earth down below you with beautiful white swirling clouds and deep blue oceans, green and brown land masses. Earth is filling the viewport, but now you're going to start going away from the Earth, and so the Earth is getting smaller and smaller in the viewport until it's about the same size as the moon normally appears from Earth. And now it's getting even smaller than that until you can just barely see the blue and white colors of the Earth. And now it looks like a very bright star. It no longer looks like the Earth. It's like a planet, like Venus looks like from Earth. And you're continuing to go further and further from the Earth, and you're going past the sun and the outer gaseous giant planets. And now out past the solar system. All of a sudden, a flash of golden light goes through the spaceship. You feel a surge of electricity move through your body. You look down at your body, and it's shimmering and sparkling with golden light. You are now in your meditative light body. Now, your meditative light body has several wonderful qualities. You can float through solid objects. You can speed up time, slow it down, and even stop time. You can make yourself invisible. You are highly telepathic in any language with any being. And you have the power of miraculous healing. So take a moment to get familiar with your meditative light body. And now look around you and notice the stars and planets seem more brilliant than before. Everything is shimmering and sparkling with great clarity. And you realize you are in a higher dimension. The ship is now moving away from the solar system out into the vastness of space. Another flash of light goes through the ship. You feel another surge of electricity move through your body. And this time you feel lighter and more expanded than before. As you open your eyes and look around, you see swirling geometric patterns and colors everywhere you look. And you realize the universe is not empty, but filled with energy and vibration. And love. You feel a sense of love permeating everything as you look at the swirling geometric patterns in space everywhere you look. And you realize you've just come up another level in vibration. Up ahead in the distance, you see one star growing brighter than the rest. And you realize that this is your destination. All of a sudden, there's another flash of golden light, and you feel another surge of electricity move through your body. And this time you feel much lighter and more expanded than before. You feel as though you are one with everything. And as you look around, you see magnificent beings of light traveling on corridors through time and space. And you realize not only is the universe filled with energy, it's filled with intelligent beings, great beings of light, angels, archangels, wonderful beings filled with love, working in harmony with each other, traveling the corridors of time and space. And up ahead you see a beautiful planet with blues and greens and purples and indigos, little bits of gold here and there, little bits of pink and lavender and magenta. Beautiful colors, this planetary atmosphere that you're approaching. And it's revolving around a star, a big, beautiful star. And as you approach this planet, you see great cities of light made out of liquid crystal, huge buildings reaching into the heavens of this planet, the most beautiful, magnificent structures you can possibly imagine. And there are temples floating in the ethers, shimmering in the ethers. And you feel an immense sense of love as you approach this planet. And now one of the beautiful white shimmering temples is getting closer and closer. And as you approach the temple, some beautiful beings are floating out to greet you and telepathically welcoming you. And you not only hear their thoughts, you feel their love welcoming you to this holy temple. And now the ship is parking itself in front of the temple, and you're floating out through the walls of the ship, you and your higher self floating over to the entrance to the temple. And as you enter the temple, you see 11 beings of light gathered in a circle in the center of this temple. And you feel a sense of coming home, like you've come in contact with your soul family, which is exactly what you are doing. These are members of your soul family in the higher realms. And you see one vacant space in the circle. There's one place missing. And you realize that's your place in this circle. As you look around the circle, you notice 6 of the beings are shimmering with this celestial light of this celestial plane that you have entered. The other 5 beings are holographic projections. And you realize that you are also a holographic projection. And then the beings wave their hands, and an image of Earth appears in front of you in the center of the circle. And you realize that you and 5 of the other beings have bodies down on Earth. And these are your celestial counterparts in the higher realms. And so you're looking down at your life on Earth, and you realize your soul family has been watching and monitoring and sending love to you throughout your earthly journey, that they've always been there for you, silently watching from beyond the veil of earth. And you have immense gratitude for these beautiful beings of light, for being able to guide you and protect you when possible, when it's appropriate. And you have great gratitude for the work they have done to help you in your earthly journey. And you know you are never alone. They are always with you. So go ahead and look around the circle and send gratitude to each of these beautiful beings of light that are in this circle. And now a being greater in magnitude than all that have come so far to welcome you is now descending from the top of the temple down into your circle. And you immediately recognize beloved Lord Sananda, the Oversoul of Jesus, who has come to bless you and the members of your soul family with his presence. He may look like Jesus to you, or he may just look like a being of great light. And he is a being of great light. And he has unconditional love pouring forth from his being. And this unconditional love is entering your chakras, filling your being, and filling the beings of all the other soul family members in the circle. And he is welcoming you to this sacred place, letting you know he is always with you as well during your earthly journey. All you need to do is call upon him and he will be there. And he knows you have work to do on the earth. So you're not going to stay in this beautiful place very long before you return to your assignment on earth. But he is with you and your soul family is with you. And you can call on them anytime you need their help and they will be there. So once again, sending immense gratitude to Lord Sananda as he gazes upon you with absolute perfect love. And now it's time to return from this beautiful place. So you and your higher self are floating back out of the temple. And the beings who greeted you are wishing you a wonderful journey back. And once again, sending gratitude to all those who have accommodated you in this journey. And up ahead is your spaceship. You and your higher self floating back into the spaceship. Your higher self going back to the controls. You going back to your comfortable chair. And now the ship is lifting off from this incredible planet with the beautiful crystalline cities made out of pure liquid golden light, with liquid golden fountains of light and beautiful gardens, and the colors of green and blue and indigo and purple and violet. And now you're leaving the atmosphere of this beautiful planet, and you can see the great beings of light traveling the corridors of time and space everywhere around you. All of a sudden, there's a flash of golden light. And again, you feel a surge of electricity move through your body. But this time, you feel denser than before. And as you look around you, the beings of light have disappeared, but you still see swirling geometric patterns everywhere. You still feel the sense of love, though not as strongly as before. And you realize you've come down a level in vibration. And the star and planet are getting smaller in the viewport as you move back into the vastness of space. And now up ahead in the distance, you see one star getting brighter than all the others. And as it gets bigger, you recognize your own sun. And as you go past the outer gaseous giant planets and into the inner solar system, up ahead in the distance, you see your beloved Earth, shimmering like a jewel in the heavens. And now Earth is getting bigger and bigger until it fills the viewport. And now you're entering the atmosphere of Earth. And way down below you, you can see your favorite place in nature getting larger as you drop further in altitude. And now you're gently touching down in your favorite place in nature. And you're getting up from your chair and walking to the door, thanking your higher self for a wonderful journey. And now you're walking back out of the spaceship and into your favorite place in nature. Once again, noticing the sights and sounds and smells of this beautiful place. And up ahead in the distance, you see the tunnel or doorway where you came in. And now you're walking back through the tunnel or doorway until you come to the flight of stairs that leads to a normal waking state. And now you're climbing the stairs and slowly coming out of meditation, feeling revitalized and refreshed, having only positive effects as a result of this meditation, able to fully recall everything you experienced, using only the information that is for your benefit and the benefit of others. Coming all the way forward into your body, wiggling your fingers and toes, opening your eyes when you're ready. And this is the end of the meditation. So did everybody make it back? I know some of you didn't want to leave that beautiful planet. How about most of us didn't want to leave that beautiful planet? Ah, shucks, I got to come back to Earth. Aw. Now, for you engineer types or mathematic types or science types, was there something a little odd about the way we came back? How many times did we drop in vibration? Only once. How many times did we go up in vibration? 3 times. That was intentional. Sneaky, huh? Yeah. Got to watch out for these higher beings. They're sneaky sometimes. So who'd like to share what that was like? And again, we can play the mic game here. I'll bring this one up on the stage. And we'll pass this one around. I can tell it's on. I can hear yeah, it's on. So, the mic is being passed.
Hello again.
Mm-hmm.
In the pose, I approached you and I wanted to ask a question that I didn't feel that I should ask before I was talking to you. And I think I got the answer during this meditation.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and repeat the part of the question that I think is relevant to everyone here. And that's, why did the founders create humanity? What's the purpose of creating this life form?
Can I add something?
Yes.
The question was also in this way because obviously we have some qualities in us, like feeling enormous love and be a generator of love once when we are centered and grounded and like in the moment. And yet, again, with the mind, we can, if we know how to use it properly, we can create loads of things. But yet, so many people are not aware of that and don't know how to use it and so on. So, why the initial design? Or was it in the initial design, or it was like maybe some bug during the initial design that appears? So also, if you can comment on this in regards to the intention.
Yes, and my guides, the founders, are right here with me if I need them, but mostly this is my higher self speaking. So this form that we're wearing is specifically designed to give us an experience of this dimension, which is really a four-dimensional space. And I say four-dimensional space. There are multiple dimensions of time, but we're only able to perceive one of the dimensions of time normally, and that's past, present, future, what we call linear time, time by the clock, time by the calendar. And as I mentioned before, our range of experience is limited to the visible light spectrum and the sound spectrum. And probably there's a touch spectrum that's similar with things that if you're clairsentient, you can feel things that normally people can't feel, like maybe you feel a spirit brushing you that's existing in another plane or dimension. Things like that. So part of the question is implied in why such a limited form. Why a form that can go out of balance, that can forget its oneness with God, that can go into violence and conflict, and that can experience separation and feeling lonely and loneliness and pain and separation and grief and sorrow and so on. So that's kind of implied also in the question. And a part of the answer is that this region of the creation is sort of under construction. It's like a construction zone where you need to wear a hard hat and there's, dust everywhere and, partially built structures and things like that. And the Godhead is infinite, and part of that infinity is continuously creating new experiences, not necessarily knowing ahead of time what the experiences are going to be like. Now, maybe there is an aspect of the Godhead that knows everything that's going to happen, that knows all of the possible outcomes of the creation, all the possible outcomes of free will, all the possible future creations. We're going to grow up and become creator gods ourselves at some point, and we will be able to create entire universes, just as the creator gods can do now. So like the model of parents and children, we're children of God, and as we grow up, we become like our parents, able to create the way God creates. And right now, we're toddlers, you could say, probably still in diapers, crawling. Probably we haven't learned how to walk yet, most of us, on our soul journey, obviously metaphorically. And so toddlers don't know better than touching a hot stove and getting burned. So we've gotten burned several times in several different ways. I guess we're slow learners. Now, were we created that way? Think of a field of wildflowers. And this field of wildflowers has one species, let's say daisies. The whole field is full of daisies. Are they all exactly the same? No, They have the same characteristics. Most of them have the same number of petals. The stem is made out of the same material in each one. But some are bigger, some are smaller, some bloom earlier, some bloom later. And that's the beauty of creation. We're not created all alike. We may be one, but we're unique at the same time that we're one. We have, some of us are better at certain things than others, and that's apparently how it should be. That it would be boring if we all had the same aptitude, if we all had the same talents and abilities. What a boring world this would be. So some of us grow more rapidly, some of us grow more slowly. And are there glitches in the program, bugs in the program? Absolutely. And some of the bugs are tough to get rid of. Things like guilt, for example. Guilt appears to be one of the major flaws in the system. You might say, well, I thought everything was perfect. Yeah, there is a dimension where everything is perfect, or a set of dimensions where everything is perfect. We're not in that realm right now. We're experiencing the lower realms, and in the lower realms, everything is not perfect. Was it designed that way? Well, that's a good question. The founders are saying that this is an experimental realm that we've chosen to incarnate into. And not everything is preordained. Some things are, but not everything. And free will is an experiment. Some of you would probably think it's a cruel experiment because it seems to be cruel to some. But once you reach a certain level of vibration, it no longer seems cruel. Do you still feel the suffering and pain of those who are caught in the lower dimensions? Yes. That's part of compassion, is feeling deeply the suffering of those who are caught in the lower realms. But you start to realize who you are is beyond the lower realms. You are this vast spiritual being that is not confined to the lower realms. And that's the beginning of liberation. And many of us are kind of in that place right now where we're starting to realize we are not sentenced to life on a prison planet without possibility of parole. That's not the reality. It feels that way sometimes, but it's not true. There's a lot of things that feel true that are not true. And just as a reminder, illusion is that which seems to be true as long as you believe in it. Truth is that which is actually so regardless of belief. So it's important to know the difference between truth and illusion. So the truth is we are vast, creative, spiritual beings. We're having a dream of being in a limited realm called Earth, physical universe, or whatever. And at some point we wake up from the dream and we realize that we are much more than this limited realm that we seem to find ourselves in. So that's a long answer to a long question.
Thank you.
Do the founders regret anything about what they created? They had help, by the way. We are not just the product of the founders. We are ultimately the product of God, and so are the founders. God is greater than us and greater than the founders, but at the same time, we are one with God, if that makes any sense, and it really doesn't make sense. How can we be one with God and God is still greater than us? It's one of the mysteries. But so the founders still view God as greater than themselves. But nevertheless, they have grown up. They are young adults now, and we're still toddlers. But we have every bit as much potential as they have. And we will grow up to be adults spiritually at some point, and then we'll be able to do the things that they're able to do. And probably we'll play around with life forms and make mistakes, if there's such a thing as mistakes. Bugs in the program. Excellent question. So this is a time for sharing and questions. We still have about 20 minutes.
I have two questions. The first one is to the founders regarding what do the founders believe we need to know about Dr. Sam, the Bosnian pyramid, and pyramids in general.
Okay.
And the second question, I understand you were also there at the presentation physically, so you know the context.
Mm-hmm.
And the second question is around why is there such a big delay? We have free will. Why is there such a big delay between me exercising, let's say, my free will and seeing the impact of that free will?
Okay.
Which can be very long sometimes. And sometimes, like you use the example of the kid touching the hot stove, it's immediate. You touch the hot stove and you're like, oh, that's hot, I shouldn't do that. But sometimes there's a massive delay between those two things. Why is that? By design?
Yeah, well, it's the nature of the lower dimensions that there's a delay. The higher up you go in vibration through what I call the intermediate realms, that's the astral, etheric, and causal realms, the more immediate creation becomes until you get up into the celestial realms where we just visited, and creation is almost immediate. It's a function of level of vibration. And you could say it's a little bit like having training wheels on a bicycle. And the bicycle is built for a certain speed for the toddler that's just learning how to ride with training wheels. You're not going to give him a turbocharged engine, or he'll damage himself greatly. So you could say there are safeguards built into the system, because I could say, well, I wish Mr. Netanyahu would have a heart attack. And if I was in a space of anger towards him and had all my power intact, my ability of instant manifestation intact, maybe he would have a heart attack, and that might be a violation of his free will. Maybe his soul doesn't want him to have a heart attack. So this is why psychokinetics is reserved for a very high level of vibration, such as the avatar level. Because, imagine what people would do if they had psychokinetic abilities at a lower vibration. Well, I think I'll beam myself inside a bank vault and steal all the money. And what if everybody did that? Well, maybe that would be an improvement to our economic system, but it would create a lot of chaos. So we kind of have these safeguards built into the system in order to not destabilize the timeline, because there's a lot of souls that want to learn about limitation. They're not ready yet to learn about instant manifestation. And it's in the Bible, it shows Jesus healing people, and it seems that a lot of people had instantaneous healings. My idea on that is that most of them were not instantaneous. Most of those souls were ready for the healing. They'd prepared themselves for the healing by doing previous work on themselves, or they were just at a certain level of vibration where they were ready for a quick healing. Maybe a few of them were relatively spontaneous, and how many of the problems came back if those souls didn't do the deep work they needed to do on themselves? We're not really told in the Bible. There were some that weren't healed because their faith was not strong enough, and I read that as belief. Their belief that they could be healed was not strong enough. So not everybody got healed by touching the hem of his garment or whatever. So at this level of vibration, instantaneous manifestation is relatively rare. It does happen. It depends on the free will of the souls involved, whether the souls are ready to have an instant manifestation of something, and whether it violates the free will of the other souls around them in order to have an instant manifestation. Imagine moving a mountain Faith can move mountains, right? Imagine moving a mountain with your thoughts. But maybe there's 10,000 people who live on the side of that mountain who don't want the mountain moved. So you've just violated the free will of those 10,000 souls by moving the mountain. So you can see there have to be safeguards. There's even a whole group of beings that are dedicated to preserving the integrity of this timeline. They're called karmic guardians. And they assist people when they leave their body, and they assist in various other ways. And one of the things they do is try to prevent free will violations. So oftentimes the karmic guardians will intervene if you're on a path that's going to bring a lot of damage to a lot of souls. Unfortunately, they haven't, stopped the genocide in Gaza and a few other things. And, if you do go deep into that, there's obviously a reason. A lot of the souls in this particular incarnation, Israel is more the aggressor and Palestine is more the victim. But there may have been past incarnations where it was flipped, and Palestine was more the aggressor and Israel more the victim. So you have to kind of see the big picture. And that brings one more important point related to the question, and that is, do you have to pay for past karma? And my answer to that question is no. And let me give an example. Let's suppose you're a rich king and you live in a palace, and every night you're stuffing your face with fine foods while the peasants are starving outside the palace walls. Next lifetime, you come back as a starving peasant. Is that because you're being punished for your previous life? No. It's because your soul wants to experience both sides of the duality. I'm going to be a selfish person that doesn't care about people suffering because I want to have that experience and know what that feels like. Oh, I want to be one of the suffering peasants because I want to know what that experience feels like. So there's no judgment there. There's just the desire to experience both sides of the duality. Now, that doesn't make the king's behavior right. He's behaving like a complete you-know-what. But we're not judging it. We're simply saying that's an experience that happens in these lower realms, and we can have love and compassion for the starving peasants while the king is stuffing his face full of food. So the second question was about the pyramids. Pyramids are energy generators, and there is a sacred science behind the pyramids and how they channel energy up through the capstone of the pyramid. And these were placed by the Pleiadians. Some of them were also built by the Syrians, but the Pleiadians built the big ones, including the Great Pyramid at Cheops in Giza and the Pyramid of the Sun in Vesico, and Pyramid of the Moon as well. So these were built by the Pleiadians about 30,000 years ago, roughly. And the Great Pyramid was built around 12,000 years ago, right after the Ice Age. The Sphinx was built by the Syrians about 15,000 years ago during one of the Ice Ages. And you can see the weathering marks on the Sphinx from the receding water and ice. It's too bad these high-paid Egyptologists can't see what's right in front of their face, It's been dry in Egypt for the last 12,000 years. It's a big deal when it rains there. It doesn't create weathering on the Sphinx if you have 12,000 years of dry weather. It's like, So they are energy generators, radionics devices to be more specific. And they generate a field of energy, and ships use them, navigational airships and spaceships use them to refuel themselves. One particular kind of spaceship that relies on that type of energy. They're also navigational beacons. They're positioned very precisely so that They form corridors of energy which can be navigated. So there's a whole system of navigation involving electromagnetics that uses pyramids as navigational beacons. So those are the two main reasons. There are also ascension chambers, which means that when you go inside certain places like the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid, it accelerates your evolution to some degree and activates your etheric crystal light body to some degree. So those are three of the purposes of the pyramids.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm just getting a bit confused now, just to continue on the question that he had. Could you explain a free will a bit more? Because it seems like it's conditioned, whether by our experiences, past, soul, desires, or whatever. So how exactly is it a free will if it's anyhow
Yeah, I
conditioned?
have an all-day workshop on the subject of free will because it's the most complex topic there is. And it's because we live in a multidimensional universe where there are levels of free will. So I have this talk somewhere on the internet, I think it was in Romania, called Three Parallel Earths. And we have just enough time to go into it briefly. There are 12 levels or dimensions in my model system, and 3 of them are relevant to the question of free will, and that is the 3rd level, 4th level, and 5th level. Level 3 is the level of what I call imprisoned will. This is the level where we are slaves to our belief systems. Let's take an Orthodox Christian or an Orthodox Jew or a fundamentalist Muslim. They are not going to go to a Buddhist temple next Sunday just for the fun of it. They would probably consider that blasphemy and God's going to throw me in a fiery pit if I go outside my religion. They are slaves to their belief system, and they are going to go to their fundamentalist church every Sunday. And if they don't go, they're going to go to confession or whatever system they have for atoning for your sins. We have what's called the illusion of choice. And this is basically irrelevant choices, like do I wear a yellow dress or a red dress? Do I buy a blue car or a gray car? You know, those are kind of irrelevant choices. They don't really mean much in the grand scheme of things. The only real choice is whether or not to receive God's love or not. You can choose to live in God's love, or you can choose to reject God's love. And to put that into the will question, level 4 is free will. This is the level of actual free will where you've broken out of your belief systems. You're no longer doing what the television tells you to do because it told you what to do. And you believe the men in the white lab coats or women in the white lab coats or the black robes or the pinstripe suits. And so therefore you're going to live your life based on what they tell you to do. You're going to get a sharp object put in your arm because they said it was safe and effective, etc. Level 4 is the do not comply level. It's like, wait a minute, you know, I am a sovereign soul, and I have this body, and I'm going to decide what I put into this body. And that's the beginning of free will. It's basically you're making choices based on what you believe is right for your soul growth, happiness, and well-being, rather than what the television tells you is right, or Big Pharma tells you is right, or whatever. So that's level 4. Level 5 is God's will. And this is, at first glance, you're saying, well, okay, I'm gonna turn over my free will to God's will. And you think that, in a way, that's giving up freedom, but there's more freedom when you align with God's will than when you have your own individual will. It doesn't make sense intellectually. It's like, oh, you mean God's going to control my life? Well, at that point, it's not even about control. Control is part of the illusion of duality. You know, the idea you can force someone to do something. That's, again, part of the lower realms. So level 5 is where God works through you, and this is where free will kind of becomes predestiny or divine will, which is different than predeterminism. Predeterminism is where you can predict what people are going to do based on their belief systems. That's a level 3 thing, whereas true divine destiny is a level 5 quality. There's a lot of freedom in that because God in you is creating from a high state. And so those are the 3 levels of free will, and really only level 4 is true free will. The others are a completely different state of consciousness. We'll take one more question, I think, before the break, before we finish.
Thank you very much. I have one question and one observation. Also connected with free will. I don't know, in our now present life, we expand spiritual, and I think a lot of people can measure some kind of their improvement through 4 things, according to my opinion. First, the lowest, but I will, at the end of this topic, I will ask the question. First things I think is I created that, for example, that's mine. Second is when you expand a little more, I created that for God. I created that for God. You love God more. After that is God created this for me. Mm-hmm. God created this for me. And fourth, for my opinion, is we are all God. Everything is God. Mm-hmm. So now, I think it's true. I feel it like that way. Mm-hmm. And if everything is God, do we really have free will? For example, if you imagine some child, you close your eyes and imagine some child with a ball in their hands. You can imagine, everybody can imagine that.
Yeah,
so just a second.
Okay.
So we imagine that child with a ball. So if everybody of us imagine the child with the ball, did the child will throw the ball or not? Is it the free will of the child, or is it the free will of the Creator? According to that, according to the most maybe rotten things that we have on earth, according to Advaita teaching, we don't have free will at all. Advaita says that we don't have, like that ball, that child that we imagine will do what we imagine, not what
I understand.
You do know. Yeah.
I understand. Thank you for that. And we are running short on time, so I want to answer while we still have time. And I am familiar with the Advaita Vedanta teachings. Actually, when I said the illusion of choice, I was pretty much referring to what you're talking about. It does appear at our level of understanding that there's really only one choice, and that is whether or not to wake up or not, whether or not to accept God's love or not, which is the same thing as waking up. And it appears that at this level of vibration that we can choose to remain asleep. Now, maybe it's possible to predict with complete accuracy the day, the moment, the second, the microsecond that a soul's going to wake up and say, wow, I was dreaming all this. It's not real. But at this level of vibration, it's almost better to assume that we can't predict with absolute certainty the moment a soul wakes up and realizes they're one with God, and that God is all there is, and that there is no free will, because everything is God, and it's God creating this and this and this and this, even though it looks like I drew up a blueprint for this building, and then I'm following the blueprint, So I agree with you, and most people are not coming from that level yet, and therefore need the training wheels on their bicycle. They're not ready to ride a big racing bike. They're still riding a toddler's bike with training wheels, and they're going to hurt themselves if we put them on a big bike. So that's, again, I'm in agreement with the Advaita Vedanta philosophy. I think sometimes the terminology gets a little tricky, because on this level, this human level, it still appears we have choices. Even if there's a level where you can predict in advance every choice that soul's going to make. And I actually have an analogy. You're in a forest, and you're following a path, and it's a dense forest. You can only see a tiny ways ahead of you and a tiny ways behind you on the path. So you climb the tallest tree in the forest, and now you can see the path where you were and the path where you're going, and you can see all the other paths through the forest, all the other possible paths that a person could take using, quote, free will, unquote. So you could say that that's not, from up there you don't have free will, because you can see all the possible choices that could be made. And I think that's about as close as we can come in this dimension to that question, and still have it be relevant to everyday life. Because you can see all the different possibilities that are available from that highest tree. So from there, yes, you've transcended free will. Okay, we will have a workshop tomorrow from 10 to 1. It starts an hour later, unfortunately, because that means I'll be roasted in the sun for an extra hour tomorrow, unless it clouds up, which I don't think it will. So tomorrow's workshop is on compassionate detachment, which is really related to what can we do about the suffering in the world. That's really the theme tomorrow, and I think it's a very relevant theme with all the stuff that's going on in the world. Thank you. So, enjoy your lunch, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10. I'll probably see some of you on the dance floor tonight. And I think that's about it. Thank you.